Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for that confusion and the delay. We were just trying to switch network so that we have better audio, and because there was not so great quality earlier. So with that, let me just share the slide. So I just quick disclaimer. So stock specific, we'll avoid to discuss. Current state of the market is what we are looking to discuss here. And with that, we will do a mix of at the end, the idea is to conclude on sentiment basis, on fundamental basis, on quant basis, where we do we see the market headed, Nifty, stocks, etc., etc. What are our pockets, right? We look at each of the sectors and थोड़ा उसमें time spend करेंगे कि हमें वैल्यूएशन पे, ग्रोथ एक्सपेक्टेशन पे एंड सेंटिमेंट वाइज कैसा लग रहा है, which is the last slide. So stay right till the end, and I'm sure it will be worth your time spent. So let me just start quickly with the current state of the market. I'll just share the slide just to so that everyone can see. Yeah, is it? I hope everyone can see the slide. So yeah, okay, thank you. So the first few things that we would be looking at is what I call the FSFS framework, right? The first F is obviously fundamentals, hardcore fundamentals. Just earnings growth is obviously a very integral part of that. Second is sentiment, and it's kind of in that order, right? Ensure the fundamentals are in place. Kahin kuch gadbad hai. So therefore, we need to see go deeper. Second is sentiment. What is the mood around the market globally, locally, sectorally, etc., etc. Third is flows, very important, right? The FIs and DIs flows, and the last is valuation, or you can call it the stock valuation. So FSFS framework, we move forward and look at the first two buckets, right? Within that FSFS, we're looking at the first two. We're combining the first two, which is fundamentals and sentiment. Within that, what has happened is, the tariff. The first point is obviously the tariffs imposed by Trump and on major economies globally, be it China, be it Canada, Mexico. मतलब उन्होंने कोई इंडिया पे भी काफी threats आए हैं, and they're planning, in some cases they have already implemented, etc., etc. So that is what is happening in the first bucket there. So 35% China and 10-20%. उसकी वजह से inflationary impacts कुछ आ रहे हैं, कुछ incrementally आएंगे on oil, on metals, etc. Second is our own economy में जो slowdown हुई है, which is Q2 में हुआ है, Q1 में हुआ है, Q3 में थोड़ा improvement देखने को मिला है, but our larger hope is pinned on Q4 and subsequent quarters. And उसका larger culprit government capex spending है. We'll spend more time on that. And obviously उससे से related चीज है कि corporate India Inc जिसे बोलते हैं, उसकी जो earnings growth है वो weak रही है Q1, Q2 में. Q3 में there is a spark of hope, and Q4 is when we are again looking to go back to double digits, even if it's low double digits. So this is the broad starting point within the sentiment and the fundamentals. अब उसमें tariffs की बात हो रही है, तो quickly what US is trying to do, और उनका जो global share है, आप daily देख सकते हैं कि they command up to 10% of the global exports and about 16% of the global imports. Or put together, they have about 16.6 or almost 17% of the global trade market share, which is huge by any imagination. Obviously, next pick is and very close is China, and within that, if you break it up between goods and services, दोनों में ही दोनों का breakup, is what we have presented. Goods is where they have a larger deficit, right? So exports minus imports, the amount of $750 billion in 2014 has increased continuously. अब वो चाहे पुराना era रहा हो under Obama, और उसके बाद Trump आए थे between 2017 and 20, and उसके बाद वापस बाइडेन आए थे, राइट? तो जो डेफिसिट रहा है वो इंक्रीज ही हुआ है. ऐसा कोई पैटर्न नहीं है कि जो बता रहा है कि मतलब लास्ट टेन्योर में अंडर ट्रम्प इंप्रूव हुआ था और वापस वर्सन हुआ. वो हर साल ही डिटेरिएट हो रहा है. तो अगर आप राइट साइड में आके टोटल अगर डेफिसिट देख लेंगे, एक्सपोर्ट्स माइनस इंपोर्ट्स, $484 बिलियन जो स्टार्ट हुआ था, वो $516 बिलियन के आसपास रहा अंडर ट्रम्प एरा, आई मीन अंडर द फर्स्ट ईयर, एंड देन व्हेन ही लेफ्ट इट वाज 650, एंड अभी व्हेन ही इज अगेन टेकन चार्ज इज ओवर 918. तो वो कंटिन्यूअसली हो रहा है, डिटेरिएट हो रहा है. तो दैट इज वेयर द which is the starting point. तो under the global tariffs. अब ये एक और interesting statistic है which says that what they have imposed on on China. It is, and they've increased. It is, अगर आप देखें तो थोड़ा टॉक ज्यादा है, एंड जो बाइडेन करते हैं वर्सेस ट्रम्प, तो आप देखेंगे जो बार ग्राफ में क्लियरली बॉक्सेस ब्रेकअप गए, ईवीज पे 25% से 100% हुआ है, बट दैट वाज डन अंडर ट्रम्प, एंड उससे ज्यादा बाइडेन के अंडर हुआ है. तो लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ द डार्क patches under each of those bars is what has happened under Biden. But वो on a routine basis उन्होंने काफी कुछ किया, उतना हल्ला गुल्ला नहीं किया, उतने थ्रेट्स नहीं दिए, उतना डेली बेसिस पे मतलब कभी कर रहे हैं, कभी फिर पुल कर रहे हैं, फिर डीले कर रहे हैं, वैसा कुछ नहीं किया, शांति से किया. एंड दैट इज हाउ इकोनॉमी मूव. इन दिस केस इट इज जस्ट दैट इट्स too much of a changes, and he's being very vocal about it, that's it. But the larger point, it has happened earlier as well, and of a much higher magnitude. क्विकली ऑन यूएस एंड इंडिया का 10 ईयर का बॉन्ड यील्ड का डाइवर्जेंस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मायने रखता है. तो अगर आप देखेंगे जनवरी 24 में हमारी बॉन्ड यील्ड 7.2% थी, रफली 15 महीने पहले, गिर के अभी 6.8 पे आ गई है. यूएस की 4% थी, 3.9 टू बी एग्जैक्ट, वो चढ़ गई है और 4.3 पे आ गई है. तो जिस पीरियड में हमारा गिरा है उनका चढ़ गया है. तो obviously it had gone to a much higher number. 4.3 is today's number. It was closer to 4.7 some time back. तो जो डिफरेंस है बिटवीन द टू वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर गया है. तो पहले 330 बिप्स था अबाउट अ ईयर बैक, एंड इट इज नाउ कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड टू 250 बिप्स. अब जितना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करेगा उसका मतलब है कि यूएस इकोनॉमी एज इकोनॉमी एज अ मार्केट प्लेस दे आर बिकमिंग मोर अट्रैक्टिव, राइट. उसका 4.3% अगर मिल रहा है वहां की इकोनॉमी में, right, and plus the rupees depreciating. Rupees depreciated the fastest in the last 8-9 months. It has depreciated about 4 to 5%, and prior to the previous few years वो 2-3% depreciate किया था. तो वो एक सेकंड इशू है कि हमारा उनका जो बॉन्ड यील्ड्स है वो स्ट्रेंथन हो गया था, जो रुपये है डिप्रिशिएट हो गया था. And obviously the Indian market was not doing as great. The 1-year returns, rolling returns was low single digit for a large part of the last 6-8 months. So तीनों चीजें मिला के there was FIs outflows which was happening, and which everybody knows, which I'll show you in the next slide. This is very interesting. The US dollar index is a very good measure how to see the risk aversion situation. So it was around 100. If you can see in July, it was around 106 when market was doing reasonably okay, and when it bottomed out at around 100, which was in September October last year, market ने अपना peak बनाया था 26-216 के आसपास. And right after that, when Donald Trump came, or the election verdict was out, which was I think around the 4th or the 5th November, then it started going up. The US dollar started appreciating against all the currencies, and ये obviously dollar index उसी का ही measure है. It measures against 6 other major currencies. तो वो चढ़ते it came to 110, and that is where the Nifty was close to 23,431. And obviously the good part is it is down. So keep in mind a lower US dollar index is good for India. ये अब नीचे आ रहा है, 110 वाला 103.6 आ रहा है. And obviously you don't have to wait for it to come down back to 100, because it was never 100 in the first place. If you see steady state, एक साल पहले वो 103 पे ही था. आप अगर लाइन ड्रॉ कर लेंगे तो आप देखेंगे रफली एक साल पहले 103 पे ही था. तो इट इज बैक टू वेयर इट वाज अबाउट अ ईयर बैक, राइट. एंड ऑब्वियसली उसके नीचे आएगा और अच्छा है. यूएस बॉन्ड यील्ड भी अगर 4.3 के नीचे आएगा तो अच्छा है, बिकॉज इट आल्सो पुट्स pressure on the Indian government and the RBI to cut down rates further. This is again a good point, or a tailwind. Ki crude prices are in a good narrow range of $60 to $70, whereas about a year back, 6 months back, they were much higher, and historically we've seen it surpassing $85-90 also in the recent past. So the good part, we are on a WTI crude basis, we are in a comfortable zone, and obviously we import large part, almost entirely crude, so इसलिए 90% plus crude, तो it is उसका soften रहना हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा है. Earnings growth, GDP earnings growth, and this is all about I'm talking about the first bucket, which is fundamentals, earnings growth, and sentiment. It's largely on fundamentals, earnings growth. तो first quarterly अगर आप trajectory देखेंगे तो GDP growth we were, and this is again rebased, right? RBI ने recently rebase कर दिया है from 12-13, I think from the base से 12-13 to 21-22 now recently. तो उसकी वजह से ये आप GDP growth rates आपको बहुत सब 1% ज्यादा दिख रही होंगी of the previous financial year. उसके लिए FY24 का 9.2% आ गया, जो ओरिजिनली 8.2% था. तो larger point, all the greens, it was coming down, and we came in at about 6.5% in quarter 1 of current financial year, and और उसके सामने जो निफ्टी का जो पैड ग्रोथ था विच यूज टू बी डबल डिजिट 20, 30, 40% था, it came down to 2%. And जो the Nifty, the 500 जो bucket था, that the BSE 500, it came down even further 3.3%. अब वो contract होते होते the last quarter number is 6.2%. It is slightly better than quarter 2. Quarter 3 is slightly better than quarter 2, and the Nifty pattern obviously is showing improvement. We are at 5% now, and the BSE 500 pattern is about 7% growth. This is again YOY. Right now, quarter 4, the expectation is that the GDP growth should be about 7.2 to 7.6%. Nifty PAT should be low double digit, 10, 11, 12%, because obviously there's so much of activity. And उसका एक reason मैं आगे बताऊंगा कि is one of the big reasons for this. And BSE PAT, BSE 500 PAT profit, aggregate profit should be mid double digit. So that can be the next big turning point. So as we move forward, this is the reason, right? Government spending, capex and manufacturing were the major drag, right? So अगर आप government consumption part देखेंगे, which is row number 3, it used to be yellow and green, and वो suddenly quarter 1 में -5% आ गई because of election related cut down in government expenditure, and obviously उस दौरान वैसा होता है, but शायद बहुत ज्यादा हो गया and ये किसी ने इतना फैक्टर नहीं किया था, तो -5% was a big disappointment. From that उन्होंने lift किया है तो 3.8% पे आए, and obviously a bigger lift is seen in quarter 3, 8.3%, and this should continue in quarter 4, but it's expected to be again high single digit. तो आपका कुल मिला के जो growth rate है, it should be again जो हमने previous slide में देखा, it should be closer to वो 7.2 7.6% के 6 के range में है, तो ये एक बड़ा नंबर आ सकता है 7.5% के आसपास quarter 4, which is again very very good, right? तो ये जो short term and plus private consumption was also slowing down, that should also go up. This is what had happened. Government expenditure जो cut down हुआ था. Now, by till September, the expenditure was only 44 or 37% of the budgeted estimate, and same time last year the number was 49%. So it was as low as that. मतलब आधे साल में उन्होंने 37% ही तक खर्चा किया था because of again election related slowdown. But next 4 months में इतना pull up हो गया है कि now the capital expenditure is as much as 74%, and which is almost the same as in line with last year, 76%. So broadly we are catching up, and obviously Feb and March में और भी improvement देखने को मिल सकता है, and we should be very very close to the new number, which is what is mentioned here, which is 10 lakh crore. जो obviously was revised downwards, but even at 10 lakh crore, we are there is a growth over last year. Number. Okay, so ये सब तो हो गया. गवर्नमेंट ने क्या क्या किया. अब आरबीआई भी अपनी तरफ से जो हो सकता है वो किया, starting with a rate cut which they did on Feb 7, the first rate cut after 5 years. After 5 years first cut हुआ, 6.25 पे हमारा repo rate आ गया. First item, and parallelly they were reducing risk weights for NBFCs, जिसकी वजह से it freed up capital about 40,000 crore, और उसपे आप 10x का leverage अगर लेंगे तो about 4 lakh crore का additional lending हो सकता है from banks to NBFCs, which was earlier not happening. तो NBFCs further can lend in the system. तो हमारा जो इंडस्ट्री क्रेडिट ग्रोथ है, जो लास्ट ईयर सेम पीरियड पे 16-17% होता था, अभी गिर के 11% पे आ गए हैं. ओवरऑल इंडस्ट्री क्रेडिट बैंकिंग क्रेडिट ग्रोथ इस समय 11 पे है. लास्ट टाइम सेम टाइम एडजस्टेड फॉर HDFC मर्जर 16-17% पे था. नाउ दैट कैन इंप्रूव गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, एंड चांसेस आर नेक्स्ट ईयर द एक्सपेक्टेशंस आर it can be anywhere between 12, 13, 14%, and 14% हुआ तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. And open market operations again RBI was doing, again this is again where the RBI infuses liquidity in the systems. ऐसे और भी 3-4 चीजें हुई हैं. I'm just highlighting the core ones. 1 lakh crore के उन्होंने 2 tranches में मार्केट में पैसा डाला है, infuse liquidity. What does this all mean for the growth rate? So next year growth rate against last year growth rate जो हमने देखा, जो थोड़ी subdued हो गई थी compared to FY24, next year the number is on a revised base, because as I said the base has been revised, and it's now expected to be 6.7, 6.8%, and obviously थोड़ी सी front loading होगी, which is quarter 1, quarter 2 में ज़्यादा थोड़ा सा better होगा versus again this is estimate from the RBI, and we are looking, which is not bad, which is realistic. अब इससे कम आप क्या expect करेंगे, तो realistically अगर ये लेंगे, so that is how things will move. Please keep in mind, if this is the real growth rate, the nominal growth rate will be 10-11%. If that is the growth rate, then the revenues can grow at at 11 to 12%. With 11 to 12%, the profits can grow at 12 to 13%, and if profits grow at 12 to 13%, the overall market can grow at 13 to 14% year over year over the next 3 to 5 years. This is a normal, simple formula to be assumed or taken, which has been tried and tested over the last 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. Okay. The Nifty EPS again was cut, getting rational cut continuously for the last financial year. So we started with 1142 Nifty EPS on FY25. So post quarter 4 जो हमारा पहला नंबर निकला वो 1142 था, उसको काट करके we came to 1115, 1059. Now the latest number is 1046, which is about a 4% growth, which is not a very healthy number. But having said that, what it also does is it gives a low base for the next financial year. The next financial year में जो cut है वो उतना heavy duty नहीं है. So from 1327 it's come down to 1205, which is a good 15% growth on the revised base, and again it should grow at 14%. तो उसी से जुड़ा हुआ अगर आप नीचे देखेंगे तो quarter 1 में भी we have seen BSE growth rate at 500 का जो collective aggregate profit growth था वो 3% तक गिर गया था. Quarter 2 में इनफैक्ट नेगेटिव था, quarter 3 में is a big pull up to 8.5%, and निफ्टी का तो हमने देखा ही है, it is improving slightly. Okay, अब आते हैं next bucket में. So we have seen earnings, fundamental and sentiment. Now we move to the other part, which is flows and valuation, right? FI flows and the stock valuation, right, under the FSFS framework. So FIs का multi-year low ownership हो गया, from 22% they are now at 17% ownership level, and in the last decade, and in the same period जो DIs है उनका ownership बढ़ के हो गया 9% से over the same period. Sorry, the domestic mutual funds का हो गया 3.9 से almost 10%, and about the overall ownership is now down from 16.5. The non-institutional portion is down from 16.5 to 14%. But larger point, the FI's ownership is at a decade low, and obviously एक point के बाद obviously you will stop, and that is we'll come back to that. Now, two things have happened, right? In the last after Trump has taken charge, the US currency was appreciating, the US dollar index was going up, the bond yields there was going up. The FIs were taking out money from all emerging markets, and they were either putting back to US or incrementally to China as well, because China ने काफी बीच में proactive अच्छे progressive measures किए थे. All right, so अगर आप निफ्टी का 3-6-12 months का performance देखेंगे, at it was negative 3 months, 6 months. So even after putting so much money back in US and in European markets, US was still down 6% in S&P 500. The S&P 500 was down 6% and very marginally flat in 6 months, and Nasdaq भी down था. And likewise Nikkei भी ने same obviously pattern show किया है, and Brazil, which is above Vespa index, ने भी same दिया. So it's only Shanghai which is displaying a contrary trend, and to some extent Europe, right? So it's a mixed bag, but a large part of the market have been under pressure in the last 3 and 6 months, just the way India is. So India एक alone नहीं है इस पूरे pressure zone में. It is other economies are also there, which are equally under pressure. So this is very interesting slide. इसमें बता रहे हैं कि FI flows कितना रहा है. So they've been selling month on month, and also it says कि ऐसा नहीं है कि जब FIs बेचेंगे उस समय market नीचे ही जाएगी. So let's say there was a period in between where the Feb 24 में अगर देखें तो 15,000-16,000 crore की selling थी, but the market was up, right? The first starting point Feb 24, right? And likewise 42,000 crore की selling थी in May 24, but the market is flat, right? So it's not that they're gonna it all depends on parallelly DI flows कितने हैं, and उस समय what is the mood and earning sentiment in the market. So that is one. And second, despite 4 lakh crores of continuous selling over the last 13 months, there is more than 4 lakh crore, almost 6.5 lakh crore of DI buying, which is help the market balance it out, and we are at net 2% positive in the period Feb 24 to 25. Now look at valuations, right? We were continuously in that 21, 23, 24 range 1 year forward, because हम एक साल पहले FY25 को ही डिस्काउंट कर रहे थे, और कुछ टाइम 2-3 महीना पहले ऑब्वियसली हम उस पे रुक गए, because now the focus, that arrow is obviously shifting, making us shift or making the market shift to FY26. Now when you look at FY26, we are at 18.4, and obviously this number is as on 2 days before, because market was up today after many days by a good 1%. So it is about 18.4. So आजकल लेंगे तो 18.6, 18.7 होगा. But it is very, very attractive level. So these are some of the things which, and I'll tell you exactly in the next slide why it is attractive. So this is 1 year forward basis पे the current state of the market. जो right side में अगर आप देखेंगे 18.6, Feb 25 का जो current number है, compared, look at the 5-year average, it's 20.2. Look at the 10-year average, it is 20.5. So we are lower than both the averages, and there is obviously in between. We've gone, the last bottom we had seen was 18.7 in FY21, and the high we have seen was close to 23 times, which was last financial year. FY24 में एक time किया था, so we are much below the average. Now look at TTM, right? Forward can be misleading sometimes because earnings growth cut होता रहता है, तो TTM obviously cannot be misleading because वो actual है, earnings, actual trailing 12 months earning. उस पे अगर आप देखेंगे तो currently हम 22.3 पे हैं, तो Nifty currently is about 22.3 times versus look at the left hand box, 10-year average is 24, almost 25, and the 15-year average is about 23, right? So you look at both these statistics, currently 22.3 times versus 24-25 times, the average of last 10-15 years, we are obviously lower than that. So there is margin of safety. Now you take the same number, which is 23-25 times, and now let's say between now and next March, obviously we'll be looking at same TTM multiple, because now March number would be over, and let's say the March number we achieve, March 26 FY26 EPS, let's say हम 1205 achieve कर लेते हैं, which is a good 15-16% growth on the current year on the current year's EPS, FY25 EPS. Same, very, very conservatively 22 to 24 times, we're talking of 18 to 28% upside. Now that's the kind of upside we're talking of on a fundamental basis, right? Now ये अभी तक fundamental चल रहा था, जिसमें earnings है, जिसमें sentiment है, जिसमें macroeconomic top down view ले रहे हैं हम, right? Worst case, if there is a pessimist, he says नहीं मैं तो ये नहीं मानता, right? Let's look at the worst case. Then obviously you're talking of 20 times, because 20 times के नीचे तो hardly we've been there very few occasions, right? So then you're talking of 24,100. So I think the risk reward, the way we look at is suggesting that we should be between 18 and 28% upside, 29% upside. Is potentially possible, whereas the downside is hardly anything, which is only a 1% downside, because then, which is the current level, is what you're looking at. This is the fundamental aspect. Now let's look at a little bit of quant. Obviously quant के अंदर बहुत कुछ आता है, but every time the index is Nifty has moved up 1,000 points, it is taken a certain number of days, right? And this is just a aggregation of those number of days. So it started from, let's say, obviously this is not exhaustive, but let's say started with 177 days, which was 7 months, and it was as low as 27 days, which is about a month, and in between, when there was the Russia-Ukraine war, which started in 22, उसके बाद काफी बड़ा slowdown हुआ था, तो it took more than 625 days for the next 1,000 points. तो इस सब का एवरेज अगर कर लेंगे तो एंड में आपका 120 days एवरेज आता है, which is about 4 months. But fact is September से 4 months में we have already हो चुका है, right? Because September 4 months would mean end of Jan, and obviously we are well past that. So essentially you can also look at, let's say, the average of the worst and the best, which is average of 625 days and 27 days. तो वो जो आएगा number, which will be closer to 11 months, and 11 months from September would be August of 2025, can technically be, Nifty can see 27,000, a number of 27,000. So last slide में हमने जो देखा 27,000 on the other end, on the lower end, on a fundamental basis, on a quant basis, we are now saying technically it's possible on a quant basis 27,000 by August. of 2025. Now let's look at, which is, it gets even more interesting. Let's look at on a sentiment basis. Now the current sentiment suggests, and obviously we have our in-house engine, and our in-house quant engine, which keeps on telling us the mood on the basis price volume action, mood of the markets, mood of the stocks, mood of the indices. So what it's currently telling us that currently 88% of the stock are in that bearish zone, which means oversold. It doesn't mean यहाँ से और ये नीचे जाएंगे. It just says the state of the market, which is risk aversion. अब ये लास्ट रिस्क एवर्जन एग्जैक्टली मिड ऑफ जून में देखा गया था, to be exact 24 June 2022, when the last time market bottom. Okay, and the market was closer to 15,500 at that point of time. जो peak था 18,500, वहां से गिर के 15,500 पे आ गया था, because 18,500 पे it was pre war, and then war started, and धीरे धीरे it came down to 15,500, which was around the middle of June 2022, and 88% नहीं था, it was close to 80% stocks were in that oversold stroke risk aversion zone में थे वो. But guess what, वहीं से that is when the market made a U-turn, and from there it saw the Nifty did a 10% growth over 3 months, over 6 months it did 13%, over 1 year it did 19%. So between June 22 and June 23, the Nifty went up to 19%. That is it, almost touched 19,000. And look at what happened. Look at what happened to the other index, which was the mid-cap index. Mid-cap index after that fall of making that bottom, which is around that same juncture, उसमें बहुत फर्क नहीं था. The Nifty mid-cap index went up 32% from June 22 to June 23. Simply because it had come to a level which was very, very attractive. वो, as I said, 80% oversold में zone में था. उसके बाद it had to bottom out somewhere, right? तो ये लास्ट जो इतना जो इस समय देखा गया है so called oversold sentiment, वो लास्ट कोविड में ही देखा गया था, क्योंकि इन बिटवीन जो ये जून 22 में मैंने बताया वो इससे थोड़ा कम था, बट वहां से भी मार्केट बाउंस बैक किया. तो इस समय तो ऑब्वियसली उतना कोई बड़ा रीजन है नहीं. It is just that there's so much things happening globally, and sentiment wise thoda it's behaving too much, there's too much nervousness. Now this is another thing which has happened, and I'll show it to you what exactly I mean. So this is again that period between in that exactly June 22, the 12 months prior to that, right? अब आप continuous ले लीजिए, except the starting two green bars, back to back FI selling थी till the point of July 22, right? And that is, उसके बाद थोड़ा सा green आना शुरू हुआ, and then obviously एक दो reds और आए, which is then FI selling, and then it obviously थोड़ा और greens आ गए. तो अब ये है current state of the market, where again it's almost a similar pattern. You start with the two green and back to back FI selling is happening. This is the current state of the market. All right, intensity may be different. Now let's place both the two together. All right, this is what I mean by that. ऊपर वाला देखेंगे और नीचे का देखेंगे तो बहुत ज्यादा फर्क नहीं है, राइट? तो पिछली बार जब जून जुलाई 22 में FI सेलिंग, उससे पिछले 12 महीने के अगर आप देखें, कंटिन्यूस रेट्स हैं, और वही आज के दिन में भी हो रहा है, कंटिन्यूस रेट्स हैं between in the last 12 months, right? And obviously आगे का जो पैनल है वो पूरा ओपन है, because we don't know. But अगर हम ऊपर की तरफ से क्लू लेना चाहेंगे, which is what happened between July 22 and July 23, which is back to back green तो नहीं आया, but a large part of the incremental monthly flow was positive, and obviously we are hoping, right, if the dollar index is weakening, if the US bond yields थोड़ा और नीचे आती हैं, because US में 3 से 5 रेट कट्स की बात चल रही है, इंडिया का जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट अगर अच्छा रहेगा, इंडिया में जो अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ है वो Q4 से इंप्रूव होगी, एंड Q1 Q2 में और इंप्रूव होगी. अर्निंग्स हमारे वैल्यूएशंस मल्टी ईयर लो हैं, एंड इट इज मच लोअर देन 10-15 ईयर एवरेज, बोथ ऑन 1 year forward and TTM basis. There is no reason why the next few months FIs will continue to be sellers, right? It just wouldn't just make sense. So same basis that sentiment analysis, if I were to plot basis current, and this is obviously the bottom, because this is the number, I think 21,800 or maybe 22,200 something, 22,100 kind of a number. वहां से अगर हम देखेंगे तो एक broadly 20% upside potential है over a 1 year period. So the pessimist can take a 10% upside, and the optimist can take a 30% upside. So these are the three probable scenarios: 10, 20, 30. Realistically 20 up, optimistically 30, and on a very pessimistic basis a 10% upside. So we have seen on all the three bases, fundamentals and earnings, जहाँ पे हमने देखा 26,500 से 29,000 का upside था, fundamentals, earnings, core, macro driven. Then we looked at quant के हिसाब से भी by August we said very high probability 27,000 is possible. And on a sentiment analysis basis, what we are saying is that there is a range 10, 20, 30% possibility, because it's happened exactly the same way somewhere about 2.5 years back, which is June of 22, when the last time market bottom, right after 4 months after the war erupted. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is the summary slide. Ab itna sab to theek hai, but karna kya hai? Let me just quickly take you to this slide, because and I'll jump back there after this. There's obviously slightly 4-5 दिन पुराना है, but it's still relevant because बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं बदला except maybe today. And आज के numbers इसमें factored नहीं होंगे, because आज the stocks which are up and versus down were I think 4:1 or 3:1, yeah, more like that. So, but over 80% of the stocks are down more than 20% as we speak from the 52-week high. So even if you take the lower two buckets, we essentially 62% of the stocks are down more than 30%. Now, what it gets even more interesting is the bottom line. Read it very carefully. जितने भी अभी लोगों को लगता है, investors को लगता है, and this is obviously coming from experience, and we have also done that mistake in the past. Past मतलब बहुत साल पहले, कि सबसे ज्यादा डिक्लाइन जहां पे है उसमें से you try to grab the one which has fallen the most. But what we have done is, what we have done a detailed study is, last time जब ऐसा हुआ था, and it has we have seen that in multiple other cases as well, greater than 40% decline वाली जो bucket है, over the next 6 to 12 months जो उसमें रिकवरी आती है, सिर्फ 10% स्टॉक्स अपना कैपिटल, सो लेट्स से 100 has become 60, राइट, ऑफ 100 स्टॉक्स, उन 100 स्टॉक्स में से केवल 10 ही ऐसे स्टॉक हैं जो वापस अपना 100 पे पहुंच जाते हैं ओवर द नेक्स्ट 6 to 12 months आफ्टर दैट, राइट. 20% स्टॉक्स रिकवर पार्शली, मतलब 100 का 60 हुआ और 50 हुआ, दे विल रिकवर हाफ देयर जर्नी, राइट. 100 became 50, they will go back to 70, 75, 80, right, not back to 100, right. And it can obviously, in some cases 10% recover fully का मतलब है और भी ऊपर जाते हैं. तो net 30% is so called I would say 10 and 20 slightly in that risk less risky zone. With the more risky zone is 70%, because 70% of the stocks, even after a 40% fall, will fall. There's a 70% chance that they will fall further, and that is where stock picking, right, experts like Equintis Research and Ranking and a core expertise in macroeconomic and research and quant and years of experience and hand holding comes into the picture. And that is so simple word of caution: please do not try to take out a list of stocks which have fallen the most and usme se bas you start cherry picking stocks and buying more, because a 70% chance will go wrong, 30% chance, a 10% chance you'll go right perfectly, and 20% chance you'll go right midway. Okay, the final and last slide, sectoral deep dive. What we are essentially saying is, and ये निफ्टी के weights हैं, obviously the largest weight obviously is financial. हमने obviously इसको simplify कर दिया है by putting 3 buckets, and I'm sure this would help everyone. What we are again saying the same thing, right? Growth कितना है, valuation कैसी है, sentiment कैसा है. तो इस समय जहाँ पे तीनों greens हैं, it's but obvious that and by no means these are recommendations. Please consult your advisor. Please do your own due diligence, and we are not recommending anything. It is just we're sharing our thoughts, our analysis, etc., etc. So the BFSI sector is expected to grow in low double digits, and the current valuation versus the last 10-year average suggests that we're still in a comfort zone, because they are 26% lower. So let's say in a very simplistic basis, price to book देखते हैं उसमें 2.5 times price to book अगर 10-year average है, we are currently at 2 times or below, right? This is as simple as that. And sentiment का मतलब है कि financial services के around जो news flow है, specific companies का news flow, a large part of the news flow is positive. Okay, चाहे वो RBI की तरफ से हो, चाहे वो credit growth को हो, चाहे system में liquidity की वजह से हो, चाहे वो NPS की वजह से हो, or even otherwise general news flow around the economy as such. So that is why all the 3 gains. IT services news flow wise बहुत सारा positive नहीं है, because yesterday only a large fund brokerage house said they downgraded the sector, and it is obviously 60, 70, 80, 90% is exposed to US, and US में चल रहा है कुछ भी वहाँ पे sentiment wise positive नहीं रह सकता. Even IT is at threat, a little bit threat, not as much threat, but still news flow wise नहीं है. Premium high है compared to decadal average, and the FY26 EPS growth is therefore, so blue means neutral, pink means it's not in a good zone, it's more of a danger zone, and green is obviously a good zone, comfortable zone, right? Consumer discretionary FMCG में दो greens, growth अच्छी है, reasonably good, not very good, and there's a mix of discretionary FMCG, and जो valuations हैं वो after obviously fall, current valuation की बात हो रही है, and 20, 30, 40% decline तो आया stocks में, so current fall में थोड़ा margin of safety, and we're comparing to the 10-year average, so there is adequate margin of safety. Oil and gas, there are only two companies, we know the two companies in Nifty, so उधर obviously वो थोड़ा neutral to green zone में जा रहा है. और okay, now there will be some sectors जो mixed होगा, starting with auto, perfect mixed signal, right? Blue भी है, green भी है, pink भी है, right? Earnings growth अच्छा है, 15%, valuation अभी भी महंगी है compared to decadal average, and news flow wise बहुत ज़्यादा positive नहीं आ रही है news, right? Which means that the numbers, monthly numbers, EV का related जो penetration बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है, तो obviously it's making a dent into the core ICE vehicle category, and unless and until GST rate कटा जाए तो अलग बात है. So far its news flow is either neutral or negative. Infra capital goods, again mixed signal. We have seen what has happened recently after despite stock prices correcting 20, 30, 40%. The valuations are still high, even 70% again compared to decadal average, but still अगर आप decadal average नहीं लेना 5 years लेंगे तो भी premium है. तो फिर and earnings growth is down from an expectation of 30% now to only 16%, which is at par, not very far from Nifty EPS growth. तो इसलिए फिर बहुत ज़्यादा excitement नहीं है, तो इसलिए this is more in the neutral zone. Metals mining more green than neutral, so I would say slightly positive bend because valuation comfort है, earnings growth अच्छी है, and news flow wise neutral है. Telecom, no brainer. It's after a long time. It's last 2 years has been good for the sector, and incrementally next 2 years should also be good. Last two pharmaceuticals mixed, very mixed. बहुत company specific है, CDMO है तो अलग है, generic अलग है, branded अलग है, hospital diagnostics सबका अलग चल रहा है. US exposed है तो अलग है, Europe है अलग है, India domain अलग है. You'll have to be very stock specific, and you cannot just say pharmaceuticals is the next be the next big sector, because stocks minus 10% earnings growth वाले भी हैं, plus 10 भी हैं, 20 भी है, 30 भी है, और minus 30% भी है. And valuation comfort बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है beyond a point. Cement is trying to make a comeback, and having seen that space for over 2 decades, I can say that this should be one of the sectors in everyone's radar for the next 6 to 12 months. Earnings valuation discount उतना ज़्यादा नहीं है, but जो growth है वो एक comeback कर सकते हैं, because crude is now wavering, is slightly soft, and the demand is closer to 7-8-9%, more 7-8%, and the prices are inching up month on month as we speak. 2 more sectors there, but but they were not part of Nifty. So chemicals and real estate, and that's the entire universe. Both of them are in a neutral zone currently. If you look at all the 3 parameters, which is growth, valuation, and sentiment, news flow in the market. So I would stop there. Thank you so much for a patient listening. It's been a good 35 minutes. I slightly exceeded time. Let me just spend some time on the questions, and then we can conclude this. Okay, so we are when can we expect the FI? Vikas Varun is asking, when can we expect the FI selling to stop? They have sold over 5,000 crore yesterday as well. Yes, they have sold. I'm sure आज का number मैंने देखा नहीं, but hopefully negative नहीं होना चाहिए, मतलब इतना बड़ा negative नहीं होना चाहिए. But when exactly is a big question mark. But I sense it should be April onwards. It should and May should definitely be a very high possibility. May will be positive, the month of May, right? I'll tell you quickly, right? 103, closer to $103 index. The US yields below 4%. The Indian economy Q4 GDP data closer to 7.2%. The Nifty earnings growth about 11-12%. On broader BSE 500 aggregate profit growth about 15%. Quarter four, okay, quarter four की बात कर रहे हैं, right? And large part of the sentiment is cooling down because ये जितना भी हल्ला गुला है वो 4 अप्रैल के बाद थम जाएगा, right? News flow, because after a point तो फिर Mr. Trump has to get back to business, right? And because 4 अप्रैल के बाद ये जितने भी उन्होंने बातें की वो सब इम्प्लीमेंट होनी है. बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट आप कितना खींचोगे. So in all the parameters, be it sentiment, earnings growth, as well as on the flow wise, on all parameters, it should either be neutral or mildly positive over the next 30 days. And I think after 30 days, the quarterly results for quarter four will start coming. इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ कि April, I don't know. April can be a very high chance it will be mildly positive. But May should definitely be positive. I think that's where it seems like March can obviously, because there is limited days now left. So March, and there's still little bit of up and down that's being seen. तो इसलिए थोड़ा सा है. Same Vikas is asking 5 trillion economy कब होगा? I think it should be there. It should be there. I think in 2 years because we are closer to $4 trillion. For in excess of $4 trillion. तो I think the 10-11% की आप growth मारेंगे तो I think 5 पे पहुंच जाएंगे. तो F27 की is broad. F27 is, I think we should be there, and I think by F33 we are looking at closer to $10 trillion. F33, F34, somewhere in that period. Yeah, optimistically 33, F33. But keep in mind the 5 trillion तो मतलब हो गया, उसमें बहुत ज्यादा बचा नहीं कुछ करने को, right? उसमें आप या मैं उसमें बहुत ज्यादा कोई swing उसमें achieve नहीं कर पाएंगे. And this for larger audience, please look at the $10 trillion. और उसमें कौन-कौन सी spaces emerge होंगी, कौन-कौन से सेक्टर्स उसमें एक बड़ा मूव दिखाएंगे, और मूव उस वहां तक रुके, मतलब वहां तक नहीं होगा, वो F30 तक ही हो जाएगा, राइट? सो विच इज अ गुड नेक्स्ट 5 years, राइट? नेक्स्ट 5 years में काफी, सो ट्राई टू प्ले द स्टोरी from 5 to 10, because that is where the big delta will be made versus the current 4 to 5, which is the next 2 years. That is what, and obviously we're talking about multi-bagger wealth creation opportunities. वो 15-20% per annum तो ठीक है, but let's say 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x वैसा है. So F25 to F30, that could be that period, because then you're approaching $10 trillion, which is a big, huge, third largest तो वैसे ही हो जाएंगे 2 साल में, but वो flow wise बहुत बड़ा impact होगा, third largest after US and China. Again, Vishal is asking, since the market is still, would you say is going in bulk investment, should I keep putting smart money? Very good question, Vishal. Thanks for asking that. I would say because the next 30 days is crucial, and I said, and I gave all the reasons, the bond yield monitor करनी है, the dollar index, the quarter four earnings, right? And obviously monthly data आएगा 31st March के बाद, first week of April में उससे भी काफी color मिलेगा, including GST rate. Having said that, I forgot early April we have our RBI meet, and we expected to have at least 2 rate cuts in the first half of next financial year, starting April में पहला, and maybe right after that, July, maybe the next rate cut, at least 50 pips. As of now 50 pips होना चाहिए in the first of next financial year. तो ये सब अगर हो रहा है तो थोड़ा मॉनिटर करने की जरूरत है. तो therefore I would say a staggered investment may not be a bad idea, and I would therefore urge to maybe spread it out for aggressive investment, maybe 4 weeks, and for not so aggressive investment, maybe 3 months. That's more like conservative, but I would say 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on you are aggressive or somewhere in the middle or conservative. So that's how I would put it here. But I will tell you, I can tell you with confidence, having looked at the market and having done the deep dive that I presented in the last 35-40 minutes, all of the fund managers and a lot of people, even individuals who are sitting on 10, 20, 30, 40% cash, will repent big time, by the end of this calendar year, and definitely by the end of next financial year, because that will be a big drain, a very high chance there will be a big drain on the returns, because 70% invested, 30% cash is very risky at the current market situation, where we are at very attractive valuations. Is 21 Siddharth Sangvi. Thanks and thanks our internal people. Hey, and Naveen for arranging this and helping put across the questions in a very easy manner. So Siddharth's asking 21,800 possible hai kya? Possible hai, but chances, it's all about probability, Siddharth. Market's all about probabilities. I would say 5% probability, 10-15% probability, if you really push me. But अब वो है कि आपको 85% probability पे you have to take a you have to play that event, or you have to play an event basis 15% probability. Probability तो 20-800 की भी है, probability 19-800 की भी है, but वो नीचे होता रहता ना. So if 21,800 I'm saying 15% probability, then a 2800 will have a 5% probability and 19,800 will have a 1% probability. Now the thing is, how do you play, right? Or how do you plan? That's all. You have to balance, right? That's why I said stagger your investments. Do not wait for कि अब मैं ये index आएगा, ये level आएगा तो right? And I'm telling you, यहाँ से markets अगर और ऊपर चली भी जाती है, 10-15-20% stocks चले भी जाते हैं, please do not fret or get shaky. Selective stocks में buying opportunities मिलेंगी, continuously मिलेंगी, but just wait for that right opportunity. Find that perfect. So एक stock miss हो गया, no problem. We'll have enough opportunities. I showed you. 62% of the stocks have corrected more than 30%. Right? But उसमें बहुत selective होने की जरूरत है. Do not run after every second stock which is falling more than 30%. Kunal Kumar, we can take that question in but safe to say and very confident and very happy to say, the equities are in our portfolios. We have historically outperformed Nifty by a big margin, and obviously Feb में थोड़ा सा shakiness आई है because सब जगह वैसा है. The entire market has been impacted, but we've glad to share we've been able to maintain that position where we are amongst the tier 1. I cannot go deeper into it because of compliance reasons, but we've been a outperformer by distance, and we continue to maintain, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that we'll should outperform the broader benchmark, which is Nifty, in the next 6, 9, 12 months as well. Please keep in mind at least 6 months, because then it allows us a little more flexibility and freedom. Ankit Gupta, what is to be done in the core portfolios and which are down 30, 40, 50%. So as I said, we will continue to share our updates. That is what we do here, and we are rebalancing, continuously doing webinars like events like this, right? And obviously questions हमारे पास आते हैं operation desk में, हम उसका reply करते हैं, तो उसके through हम we help investors calm down the nerves. So stocks fallen 30, 40, 50%. Be assured, we are far more worried than you or because we have so much. Our entire ecosystem is built around. One of the things is around returns, right? Besides customer service, besides long-term wealth creation, and besides informed investing through informed ways by education. So we are on top of it, and we will be. We've already sent you adequate and all our investors adequate rebalancing notes, and more shall follow over the next week to 2 weeks. Next, Deepak Parekh, view on jewelry retail sector, higher GML rates and overall causing pain. Yes, I would say look at jewelry sector from a long term. Don't look at too much from short term. Yes, there was pain and there is continuing to be pain, and because dollar, gold at $3,000 and some crazy the way it's gone up, and it still continues to go up. But from a slightly long-term perspective, I think companies are mindful of that, and they're taking adequate measures or adequate steps to ensure that they are not suffering as such too much. So take a 3 to 5 year view. Next, maybe 1 or 2 quarters may be painful, but it's there in the stock price as well. Because काफी stock prices 30, 40, 50% down the year. You can already see that. Why didn't we book profits? Yeah, in hindsight, yes, you're right. जितना हम confidently आज बोल रहे हैं, उतना confidently हमने book क्यों नहीं किया profit? It's a good advice, and we continuously try to do that, but you don't know, because this time the market, the way Jan and Feb was, it was very knee jerk, and for a steady state market without news flow, correct hona the way it did in Jan and Feb, it was very too fast, too soon types. But be assured, we are on top of things. In hindsight, हमें भी ये लग रहा है करना चाहिए था, But what we are doing incrementally is we are trying to be mindful of the allocations. We ensure that allocations do not cross a certain limit. So yes, we also learning some lessons, but even after that, our performance is still among tier one, and we're trying to improve that as well. That's in a humble way I can say. We usko bhi improve karne ki koshish kar rahe hain. And incrementally we'll be mindful of this. Good time to invest listed or unlisted. हम दोनों का अलग अलग वो है अजय नायक जी. I don't know. मतलब good time to eat Indian dessert or Italian dessert. I mean, there's no right wrong. Depends on your taste, depends on risk appetite, जेब में पैसे कितने हैं, etc. रिस्क एपेटाइट कितनी लिक्विड, दोनों का अलग अलग स्फेयर है, राइट. दोनों का अपना एक स्थान है. तो बट इतना जरूर कह सकते हैं बिकॉज की लिस्टेड में इज वेरी वेरी लिक्विड. उधर प्राइसेस रोज दिखती हैं, सुबह शाम दिखती हैं. तो जिनको लिक्विडिटी का बहुत बड़ा वो है प्रेफरेंस, राइट. जिनको सेफ्टी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, जिनको है कि थोड़ा नियर टर्म में लाइक 6 odd months कहीं कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी दिख रही है, बहुत अट्रैक्टिव है, उनको कॉन्फिडेंट है, then I would say listed may be slightly better off, because then you can get in get out. Large cap, right, has fallen very attractive, तो उसलिए better होगा. बट दोनों का अपना स्थान है. तो at we typically I would say do not invest more than 20% of the overall equity portfolio in unlisted. So that's how I would 80-20 is what we advise for normal. Again, a conservative investor maybe 90-10. Okay to invest now, Niti Gaba, invest more in market. So I discussed that. So stagger it over the next 4 weeks if you are aggressive, maybe 8 weeks if you're baseline investor stroke neutral, and if you are very very conservative, maybe 3 months. Yeah, that's how I would like to advise. Reciprocal tariff announced on but will affect the market. I mean, I think a tariff wala discussion, the triple T, the Trump tariff and tantrum, so सब चलता रहेगा इसको. Let's focus on earning growth. India की GDP growth rate and just focus on dollar index. वो अपने आप सब कुछ फैक्टर कर लेगा. उसमें सब फैक्टर हो जाएगा आपका. तो बस उधर ध्यान रखिए, यूएस बॉन्ड यील्ड पे ध्यान रखिए, इंडिया बॉन्ड यील्ड पे ध्यान रखिए, इंडिया अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ पे ध्यान रखिए. वो टैरिफ क्या आ रहा है क्या नहीं आ रहा है उसको छोड़ देंगे तो वो अपने आप उस चीज सब में फैक्टर हो जाता है. The next question is Dheeraj Pal, which is the last. I guess we are running short of time, so maybe we'll take the last few questions. So should I invest whatever I've left? Yeah, we discussed it. Stagger over your investments. Stagger investments, and obviously any stock related personal stocks, we obviously try to give our view to our customers through our contingent and research expertise, and obviously हमारे portfolio में तो रहता ही है. Loss is part of Ujjwal Basi and so many people. Yeah, loss is part of the equity market game. मतलब it's like going to playing cricket के आज यार मैच तो आज आउट हो गया, राइट, क्लीन बोल्ड हो गया, आज यॉर्कर मिल गया, आज फुल टॉस मिल गया. मतलब it's part of the game. यॉर्कर फुल टॉस, getting out, yeah, slipping on the field, getting injured is part of the game. बिना उसके आप कैसे खेल खेलोगे सर? मतलब वो तो बड़े से बड़ा खिलाड़ी चाहे रोहित शर्मा, विराट कोहली, वो सब उनको it's part of the game. You cannot do. Loss is part of the game. अगर 25 स्टॉक है, 5 will go in high loss, 5 will be neutral, right? Balance 15 is which will take your portfolio to the 15, 18, 20, 25% compounding this thing. वो बस आपको churn करते रहना है over a period of time, बहुत ज्यादा नहीं, steady state 20-25% annual churning, so that you beat the index comfortably by 5, 6, 7, 8%. If it does 12-13%, we are let's say customer is chasing 18-20%. Please accept कि loss is part of the journey. बिना गिरे संभल के आप कैसे कोई गेम खेलेंगे और कैसे ही हम उसमें आगे तरक्की करेंगे. तो प्लीज it's part of the journey, and that's all I can say in a nutshell. जितना भी आप रिसर्च कर लें सर, आप बोलोगे आपने बहुत रिसर्च किया, ये सब कर लिया, फिर भी लॉस कैसे? It doesn't work like that. The greatest of investors, 99% of the investors have to exit in loss. Even the best fund managers I've seen, I've worked with, I've worked with them in the last 25 years. Everyone does it. Part of the journey. You have to move on. And the larger thing is majority of the stocks are delivering majority of the time. That's it. Do not try to be too emotional about loss. Good strategy to put stop losses. Now stop loss doesn't work. It's technical में होता है, but fundamentally हम stop loss वाला करते नहीं है. तो इसलिए I would say I'm not in that camp unless you're a technical investor. Fundamentally में बहुत ज़्यादा stop loss नहीं है. हाँ, unless आपके पास contingents हैं और वो आपको एक signal दे रहा है, then obviously you can. Otherwise not. Yes, Satish, MP opportunities which are down, let's say 20-30%, can I average more? please you can write to us and we can let you know which, because not all of them will be worth averaging. So all of you which you have a genuine question, please write to our ops desk, customer service desk, and we'll be happy to reply to your pointed questions there. Bhargav Kokadi ji, we हम टेक्निकल वैसे नहीं देखते, बट हम क्वांट प्राइस वॉल्यूम एक्शन के हिसाब से क्वांट एनालिसिस हम करते हैं, which is our in-house engine, which has been built over multi years of data analysis and backend, and you know, a lot of hard work between Manish and Charang and a lot of people who've been part of that team. So it's reached 80-90% efficiency, and obviously efficiency बढ़ाते रहते हैं. So we are using that is in nutshell. Ishwarji, we continuously rebalance portfolios, and we've been doing that in the last 3-4 weeks, and we'll continue to do that over the next 3-4 weeks. So yes, you know, be assured, if an email around that hasn't hit your desk, it will hit you over the next 1 or 2 weeks. If you still don't see that, please email it to us. Maybe it's there in your junk box or whatever, and we can get back to you. So I think I guess there seems to be we have almost tried to answer all the questions, and with that, let me just end this session. A big thank you to everyone for sparing almost an hour with us today. And we'll try to have such deep, informative exercise or a session with all our viewers on a very regular basis, be it customers or you know, just people curious to know what state of the market or generally worried about and want to look at that long-term story and whatever. And please consult your advisors or whoever you think fit, and then only take actions. And we've only tried to give you a very candid, honest, and analytical view of how we see things, and we're not trying to recommend anything. So please do your own analysis. And lastly, big thank you to Naveen, Heth, Belina, and all the members in the team who've helped put across this, Devanshu Patadi, and everyone. Thank you so much, and see you again soon. Okay.